Hi, I'm Erica.
And I'm Lynn, and today we're going to talk about this wonderful new quilt called Criss Cross.
I love the sample behind us. It's gorgeous floral fabric. It's by Dear Stella.
Yes, and these wonderful 18-inch blocks that create this just amazing pattern of crosses. And we're using the 9-inch Qube and the Companion Set to create
Yes,
this.
we are 2 dies from the Companion Set, and I'm really excited to share it with you.
Right, and 2 dies from the Qube. So I've got them right here. The signature block we're not going to talk about today, but that's one of the dies from the Companion Set. And then we've got the half square, the chisel, and then the parallelogram.
Great.
So should we just jump right in?
Let's jump in and cut some. And I think you've got some tips on how to best cut some of the pieces. So
I do. I'm going to, so you can start sewing. I'm going to cut the half squares and the chisel first, because we've got the Go Big cutter here, so we can cut them at the same time.
I want you to do my parallelograms.
Oh, you do first. Okay. Well, we'll start there.
Because actually, this is kind of an interesting process, because we're sewing our parallelogram to our chisel, and normally we just think about doing the half square triangles.
Right, right. So I love that about the cubes, that they're completely interchangeable the way that they're designed.
I know.
So lots of, definitely you need to have an open mind when you're looking at these.
That's right.
And what you can do with them. Okay, so with the chisel, this is the tip that I use to
parallelogram.
The parallelogram, thank you. With the parallelogram, this is where you get the most fabric savings. So instead of using a width of strip piece of fabric, I suggest you use a length of strip. So this is cut on the lengthwise grain, so your salvage edge would be down here.
Okay.
And then what we're going to do is, because these parallelograms in the block, they are directional.
Okay.
So what I've done is I've got you could either go right sides together or wrong sides together. So you're cutting them at the same time.
Oh, okay. So you're going to have sets. You're going to have twins.
Correct, correct. Okay. And you could do 6 layers if you want to, but I'm just starting with 2 just so I can show you how to do this.
The opposites.
And then again, with your dies, you're going to line your fabric up with that edge of the die.
Okay, so lengthwise grain, lengthwise blade.
Correct. Okay, so and then we just cover this with our mat, and I'm going to just flip this around so that it's going through the cutter this way with the tail.
Right, and your Go Big or your Go cutters, they don't care if there's a tail hanging out behind, right?
Correct, correct. Or really the Go Baby either.
Right, any of them, they're gonna work just great.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I love that these are 18-inch blocks and you could actually be doing it with a Go Baby.
I know, it's amazing. Okay, so then there's our first pair. And then what we're going to do, because we've got that same angle there, we're just going to shift your fabric over. And you just want to make sure this angle is right over that blade.
Right.
And then you send it through again. And that way, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. You could cut this extra piece off if you wanted to.
Yeah,
but I'll just stick it in there. And there we go.
That is amazing. You've got hardly any fabric waste with that, Lynn.
Exactly. So, and then again, if you had your 6 layers and you just keep shifting it along.
You'd have those done in no time.
Right.
And they're already set with their pairs.
So very little waste there in between. Okay, so is that enough parallelograms?
That will get me started. Let's do a chisel.
Chisel next. Okay, so the chisels as well are directional with these side pieces. So the fabric we are using today, it's actually, you could use either side, so it doesn't matter as much. But if you do choose a fabric like this one, where it definitely has a right side.
Right, you'll need to pay attention to that and follow the directions, because the directions in the pattern are actually there and will guide you through cutting that. So don't be like me, go ahead and read your directions.
Right, and then you would, again, just like the parallelograms in that case, and it will be in your pattern, but you would make pairs of those as well.
Perfect, okay.
Okay, so this is pretty easy. We'll put that here. And then our half squares, this we can actually fan fold.
Right, because those aren't going to be directional.
So this we've just fan folded 4 layers of fabric. It's on the lengthwise grain. We're just going to set that on top, find our mat.
And we've got the Go Big here, so we can do both of these dies at the same time.
So we do a race. Okay.
Great.
And you need the chisel.
I do.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one of those.
And I'm really glad that we've got one laid out. This would be a great block for using one of those, using a little design board, making a sample up ahead of time. Because when you're laying this out, you want to be sure that you've got your pieces laid out correctly. So when we're putting this parallelogram on, we're going to notice that we've got a little bit of a point. We've got a tail or a dog ear that's left on here. Now, we're a little spoiled with our dies. We usually don't have these, but with a parallelogram you are. So the way this is going to line up, it's going to be to take advantage of that dog ear on the top of your chisel. And that's going to show you exactly how to lay out your piece. So again, this parallelogram is going to nestle right into that dog ear up at the top, and we're going to sew from that point down to the end because we are going to have that dog ear we're not used to sticking out over the edge here. Right. So I did want to show that really quickly. And it still just goes together so nicely.
So this is another case where at least with the quarter block, it's a good idea to probably take some scraps and sew one of these together and do a little practicing.
I really do think that this is a great example of a time to do that, Lynn.
It's definitely not, it's not difficult. This is easy sewing, but it's just making sure that you've got all the pieces going together in the right way.
Now, another thing that you will see in the pattern for this particular quilt is that it's going to recommend that you press your seams open. Now, Lynn here is very good about always pressing her seams open. I'm a pretty lazy quilter, so I usually press to the dark side, but you are going to get a lot flatter, a lot better finished product if you go ahead and press these seams open. So even though it's not my nature, I'm going to go ahead and do that.
And you can use a stiletto or even I've used a chopstick. That works great too, if you know, to help you get that seam started.
Absolutely. So we're here, and you can see we do have our little dog here, but we're going to work right around that. So at this point then, we've got our pieces laid out here, and you can see we've got the chiseled parallelogram, the chisel by itself, and then that half square. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these three together for us. And while I do that, I think you've got a little tip. But when lining these up, my tip here is going to be you're going to want to line up down here at the bottom. Because it's on an angle, it's going to be really hard if you try to get your perfect position up at the top. Your dog ear isn't going to fit the way that we're used to it fitting. So go ahead, start from the bottom and sew towards that dog ear.
Right, and it'll all even out in the end.
It will.
Okay, so I am going, while you're sewing, I'm going to just demonstrate here how we put this centerpiece together. We've got it started here, and one of the things we wanted to show was that these are great for chain piecing. All of them go together the same way, so they're all going to be that half square that's going to get sewed on this side. So that's a quick and easy thing there. Then the next part of this that is the need to know is that you are going to press these seams open as it's recommended. And then here, I'm going to show you here that you can see how that, and you see it's a crisscross.
It is.
And so then once that's done, let me do this one really quick, then we can, you'll see how that you'll sew that together and they meet. Okay, so those two pieces, they go together there, and you might want to put a pin right there where they cross. Where they cross
in the center and get that perfect center point. You know, if you looked at this, I think a lot of quilters would look at this and assume that they're going to have to deal with a Y seam. And this is a great construction where you can avoid that Y seam.
Right, so that's how that goes together.
Excellent. Well, I went ahead and sewed those pieces together, and I'll hold it up so you can get a little bit better look at it. And I did match them up along the bottom, sew up towards that edge. And again, because we've read our directions, we know we're going to press these open. And again, that's just going to help. We've got a lot of junctures here, and that is just going to help those lay flat, just like with that crisscross piece in the center. It's going to help it lay flat for us and give us a better finished product.
Now, one thing I would do in this whole process, I would clip that little dog ear. Can you see that? That little dog ear, I'd clip that off at this point. You don't need that anymore.
You really don't. It's not serving a purpose. We've got it down, we've got it together. And at this point, simple construction of sewing this together and on either side, and we're going to be good to go.
Right. One last tip. You do have this extra dog ear here on your parallelogram. So what you want to do when you sew these pieces together, you want to match up this edge with that dog ear again.
So again, we're going to take advantage of that dog ear whenever we can.
So start from this side and then sew down. You'll have that little dog ear left over, little ear, and then you'll just clip that off at the end. So that will, and do that on both sides.
On both sides.
And that'll make it easily go
Give
together.
you great placement.
And these will match up.
Great. Well, I think this is a really fun pattern. I think it's a really fun use of some of our companion dies and putting some things together we don't normally, like putting a parallelogram with a chisel.
Right, and so with 18-inch blocks, which are so huge, with 9 blocks only, you have this full throw or quilt or wall hanging, and it's wonderful. And this pattern is available on AccuQuilt.com.
We'll look forward to seeing your version of this quilt. And for more inspiration, be sure you check out Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter.
At AccuQuilt, we help you cut time
so you can quilt more.